99.5 FM, WBAI-NY, Black Seinfeld, the show about nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and all non-binaries. If you don't know, you should know. It's the one and only Trinidadian Panamanian Poppy Rude Boy, Top Gunner, Suck Panyamada, a.k.a. the God, Giovanni Anglin. Hello.
Yo, it's Bashtin, recording live from LA. Gio is in Brooklyn. What's going on, folks?
LA Bashtin, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Doing well. Can't complain too much, but I'm living in the moment. This is the present. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you very much for asking. I know for a fact you were never, ever expecting me to play that song, but I understand it now. It's a pretty good song.
So what song do you think? Is it the Kanye one or the Yeezus one?
This is
the Life of Pablo one, I meant to say.
This is the Yeezus one. The Yeezus I Am a God record from 2013, an album which I heavily disliked when I was 19 back in 2013, but re-listening to the records, I'm enjoying a lot more of it.
Yeah, I do think people will come around to that particular album. It's definitely not the easiest listen to, especially if you're very focused on, just like hip hop heavy, or if you're not really into rock so much. But yeah, I do think out of most of his projects, that's probably harder for most people to get into.
Yes, but it has a really great message of believing in yourself.
Something like that.
Maybe people can say he's overzealous or overconfident or arrogant or cocky, but it's a great record.
Yeah, I look at it as an interpretation of a media's lens, and that's what the record is. It's like, this is what you say I am, so I'm just going to be like that for 45 minutes, and you're going to deal with it.
Good. Yeah. How's LA treating you?
It's great. Nah, I think great is maybe not the best term, but
it's an understatement.
It's all no, it's not an understatement. It's like how you use your time, pretty much. Like what I do in terms of going out. I don't have a car, so I'm Ubering everywhere. But you need to know when to go out because of the whole LA traffic, and it is not a joke out here. Depending on if you want to go maybe 20 miles outside your region, and what's 20 miles to me could be like from New York all the way to the edge of Manhattan. Right? It's probably much easier to do that, particularly with trains and buses. But the transit here isn't as great as New York City. So you kind of have to use the Uber because you still get there, faster. Unlike in New York, where it's much, much faster just taking the bus or train sometimes.
Definitely. So when is the appropriate time to go out? When's the sweet spot where the traffic isn't as bad as it could be during rush hour?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as New York in terms of if you're out and about by 10 a.m. or if you're out and about by 2. But as long as you're not trying to make power moves 20 minutes, like maybe 10 miles away or 30 miles away around 4 p.m., you should be fine. But if you're trying to make power moves by 4 p.m., yeah, you're gonna be stuck in traffic. So,
okay. So,
yeah,
what's a normal day for you over there?
Well, I can't really answer that question now. Maybe I can answer that question again in 3 months because my mentality right now is just to understand that I'm not in New York, understand that I am somewhere here and it's still in the present because I don't want to overthink like, oh, what I'm going to do tomorrow. My whole thing is like, what could I do today and how can I get it done without wasting too much energy and making sure I drink enough water? Because the sun is beaming out here. It's different from New York where you could spend 3 days not drinking water because of the type of lackluster weather that we have time after time.
Yeah.
Like the odds of you getting like a heat stroke or, heat exhaustion in New York is very rare. Very rare. Yeah. Unless it's really a hot day in July.
Right.
But you're not outside.
Yeah.
You're not outside. So most likely you'll be somewhere in the AC place, but the sun really beams at you here. So yeah, drinking water is something different. for me particularly.
Do the locals smell the New York on you? For example, can they just look at you and assume like, okay, yeah, you're clearly not from here?
I no, I don't think so. I dress like everybody. I do think understanding LA fashion is pretty much just New York fashion, just in the summertime. So that's pretty much it. You can't tell the difference. I dress pretty modern in the New York sense, being born in '94 and picking up my dressing style in 2013. So yeah, it's pretty modern over there. So no one could tell. It's not like if you go to another country, people could tell that you're American based off how you talk or how you handle yourself. You know, if you go on vacation to Italy, they could tell that you're a tourist just because like how your eyes are just looking at stuff. Then you get pickpocket real quick. But you know, you always gotta check your six wherever you are.
That's a good point. Italy's known for pickpocketing. A lot of European countries are known for pickpocketing.
Yeah, they definitely let you know in terms of if you're traveling. I do think it's important to do research, especially outside the United States, but even in other states, it's always good to at least either know someone, ask questions, but you know, listening to music and our hip hop references to learn through osmosis and watching interviews, you know where you should be and you know where you shouldn't be. So where I am is perfectly fine, but of course, if I go maybe a direction to the right of the map, then I'm not supposed to be out here. I have no reason to be out here.
I see where you're getting at. But also, I feel like you don't have a thick New York accent either. So I think people wouldn't really know.
I think it's more of the terminology I use. I feel like I'm catching myself. Like, you good? I'm not sure if people understood when I said that. Like when someone opened the door for you, say you good?
Right.
Yeah. And I used that, and it's kind of saw the person look back like he didn't understand what I'm trying to say. But
yeah,
I do think maybe certain terminology, AAV might not pass over here.
That's a
of
good
course
point.
I understand like not using the word weird.
Good. You have not used weirdo yet or weird.
But other words, I don't know if they understand depending on the context I'm in.
That's fair because you good, it's a complex one because you good has like 5 meanings. You good can be a genuine question of, hey, are you okay? You good can also mean what is wrong with you? You have 5 seconds to get the hell out of my face before there's going to be an altercation that happens. You good can also mean, nah, I'm okay. I don't want that. I don't want to go. I don't want to partake in whatever it is y'all are doing. So
I haven't used that one in context in a while.
Yeah.
And the one that I'm mostly in when like someone like brushes me or kind of bumps into me
Right.
and they say sorry, it's like, oh, you good. It's like,
It's
don't
like,
worry
it's
about
okay.
it. Forget this ever happened. Move on
Exactly.
with your day.
You get it so versatile.
Yeah, you good. It's very versatile depending on the context. And
That is
I
true.
think it's a lot of people just they don't want any problems. And it's true. It's like sometimes you just have a task and you're so focused on it, grocery shopping, and you're just trying to pass because you got a cart in the way, or you're just trying to see in front of you because you're both looking for the same type of juice. So, you gotta get those Welch's.
Speaking of
Welch's grape juice.
cheese eggs and Welch's grape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of juice, Bashtin, there was this app that I used earlier on today when I was still at work, and it's called Getter, right? And the premise is it only works for people who are in Long Island City and Manhattan, anywhere below like 120th Street, right? And the premise is you can get as many groceries as you want, and it'll be delivered to you within 10 minutes or less. Right? So this is a new app, so there's a lot of promo codes going on right now. And so my friend sent me over the link, and legit, I'm not gonna lie, I spent $4 for groceries to bring to my job. It was incredible. It was insane. I thought legit when he did this, he did it twice. Once yesterday and once today. And so I'm thinking there's something wrong here because this is too good to be true. Like, this man came back with carton of eggs, some juice, yogurt, bananas, and I'm just like, wait, you paid $4 for this? For all of this? He's like, yeah. And he said, there's this promo code going on right now that they'll take 25% off. If you get up to the $25 mark, they'll take $25 off. So he sent me over the link, and so I got a 6-pack of Coke Zero, some bottled water, some fruits, cookies, and 10 minutes later, he's downstairs. I paid $4. The $3 was his tip, because if I didn't pay the tip, it would have genuinely been $1.25 for everything. And so I got back upstairs and I was just like, this is one of the best apps ever right now, currently, because when this thing goes popular, like, it's over. I can never do this again. But there's deals every day for now, because this is still a new app. This is incredible.
That's interesting you bring that up, because it's pretty much the promo app to get you to talk about it a little bit more, because I do remember Cash App when it first exploded. All you had to do is share with somebody and you get $5.
Right.
And the side hustle community is like, oh, if you go to a party and talk to 20 people, run out real quick, make some dough. Of course, I've seen people, they actually did do that, but of course it's a short-term type thing. So it's pretty cool to see new applications and to see like downtown Manhattan and LIC as the starting point. I think is a healthy starting point, because you don't want to be in a neighborhood where they won't necessarily use the application. You still want to test it in like high traffic areas like LIC.
Right. Especially LIC now, because it's one of my favorite sayings to say. It's a very up and coming area. So it's really nice to see that. I think what they do is they have the people that work for the app, like the drivers. I think they have them at just a supermarket, just as their station hub. And so they go in and start like buying immediately once you place in your order. So once it's over, they're easily like 10 minutes away. So they just bike it here. I think they're at the closest market to where I'm at, or where you are at, wherever you want your items to be delivered.
Interesting. So you're getting a taste of an application before it pops off, and you think it's gonna pop off.
Oh, 100%.
Like
immediately.
there isn't like a bunch of applications very similar to it, like like Uber Eats or Instacart.
Oh, 100%. Because I know right now, if you recommend this app to people, you get like $35.
Well, yeah, I assume that's their marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want to eat up on that marketing budget? Is that what we're trying to do, Gio?
Well, for now, I just want to get in while it's hot real quick before it starts bubbling up and everyone starts using it. I just want to be one of the first to say, yeah, I've done that. Hove did that. So hopefully you won't have to go through that. Basically, I'm a hipster right now.
Hey, if you get there early so you could talk about it later, just to say that you've been on it before, y'all, then go ahead.
Yeah.
Use the logic I said.
You've done that before.
Talk about Chipotle. It's like, yeah, I remember when it was just only in the New York City.
Oh,
and then once it reached out to Queens, it was super different.
Chipotle was incredible 10 years ago. 12 years ago, I want to say.
That was said because they source differently.
Yeah, dude. The burritos were huge back then.
Yeah.
They were. Yeah. I couldn't finish the burritos. I remember the first time I've been to Chipotle. This was a time where I was I hung out with my cousins in Baltimore. This was around 2013-ish. And she was like, hey, do you want to go get some Chipotle? I'm like, what's Chipotle? She's like, oh, it's like this Mexican spot, sorta. They have burritos. I'm like, okay, cool. Got a burrito. Thing was massive. massive. There wasn't many in New York yet. I didn't know if there were any in New York yet at that time.
Probably, yeah, there was
There
because
were.
I was going in 2011, but it's only in the city. There's
Mm.
one next to Soho. It was like walking distance to the F train. I forgot what stop it was. It was like just it was,
It's like
I could
Broadway
say this.
Lafayette.
No, no. But it gave off the same energy as the Starbucks, if I recall. That was
Mm.
what I known it for, more of like a tan. Because think of Starbucks as more of a darkish color and green, but this one was much tan as the concept of today's Chipotle was.
Yes,
But it was like brand new. So, people that were there were
they knew.
business people eating lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have everybody there, but at the time where they were zoned out, it's like they want business people eating lunch.
Yeah, it's crazy how companies change when everyone starts to hop on something. You know?
Just to interject, it's crazy how companies act when they're the only option around. And there's a quick story about like what's going on here in the West Hemisphere, West side of
Yeah.
the United States. So Spectrum is pretty huge out here.
Really?
Like not only huge, I feel like it's the number one choice for everybody. And I think people feel like they're obligated to get Spectrum.
Huh? Not
Because
FiOS.
there is no Fios.
Damn. Oh right. Everything is the whole cable company uh, industry. It's very territorial.
Yeah, and just in case listeners, if you know, it's pretty much a game. I own this area, you own this area. I won't advertise in your area, and you will advertise in my area, and that's kind of how this like Comcast, Spectrum, and cabling works within the United States of America. In New York City, it's a little bit different. Competition there is like we want choices, quote unquote. That's what the capitalism way is about, just having all your choices. So if you don't like one company, you get to move on to the next. And maybe I relished in that a lot when I was younger because I was on back then it was called Time Warner Cable, hated it, had too many problems with it, always cutting off, convinced my parents, which took a whole year to do, to switch to Fios. And
Mm.
haven't quit, we haven't left since then. I had to like do like a whole PowerPoint
Presentation?
presentation to convince my parents.
No.
Yeah, they like I told them it's like not only is it cheaper at the time, it's not cheaper anymore. It's not cheaper at the time, but like these are the problems that we're having now, and if we switch here, this is what it will give us. And I could say like someone that's been using Verizon Files for years, I had zero problems. And if the
Same.
internet ever cut off, they fix it over the phone or over the texting app. So Spectrum is complete ass.
Oh yeah, 100%. We know Spectrum. That Spectrum Wi-Fi is horrible. Spectrum Internet is horrible.
So
It's
the thing is,
notorious here.
it's notoriously bad. Time Warner Cable is notoriously bad, and for them to switch over to Spectrum as a title, which is hilarious to me because they keep telling them it's like, "Hey, we're Time Warner to Spectrum." When I thought the best thing what to do was just pop up as Spectrum and not tell anybody that they're Time Warner.
Right. I think so too. That would have been a great idea.
So I watch a lot of streams on Twitch, and most of these Twitch stars they live in California or they live in Texas, and they all have Spectrum. The thing is, their Spectrum package they mostly buy is the business. It's because you're able to output more, and just in case there's an outage, they focus more on a business Wi-Fi compared to the local like me. There's no way I'm paying anything over $35 a month for it. Now, the thing that's pissing me off is I've been to. Do you have Files by the way, Gio?
I have FiOS too, sir. Yes,
Okay,
correct.
so the thing about Files is they automatically give you a router. And it's a nice
Yes,
router,
they do.
and they split it into two parts.
Yeah.
There's a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz router, and
Yes.
you get to switch whatever you want.
Right.
Right? Sometimes the 5 gigahertz is messing you. You switch to 2.4, it's perfect. Sometimes it happens, and other times like one might be down and other one's working. So the downside is Spectrum to give you this very crappy, low quality, super plastic router that manually changes it depending on the distance between the object or
What does
like your
it look
phone.
like?
No, it just looks like a small what I can say, small cylinder.
Okay, I'm gonna Google it. just to look
No,
at.
there's different versions of it, but this is like the
Oh,
standard,
okay,
right? Because the vials, I didn't look around and say, "Hey, let me get this." Like this is the standard.
right.
They only upgraded me because like the contract was like, "Hey, we noticed that you're using the old one. Can we send you a new one and you send us back this one?" I said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So this is the standard one.
Hmm.
So the problem I have with it is when you're installing anything, especially in today, in terms of any home type network, for example, like light bulbs that use Wi-Fi connection, they need a 2.4 gigahertz connection. They cannot work with 5 gigahertz because they're not up there just yet. Because this is old 2018 technology. It's like, why would they want to, reestablish it and update it to the 5 gigahertz? So many of these home devices use 2.4 gigahertz. So if you have a cheap router that they give you that they didn't split for you and you can't split, and the only way to split is you have to actually go to the store and ask them for a router that's split. So when you're trying to connect to these devices, they don't work properly.
Mm.
And it's just mind-boggling that something as simple as like Fios just giving it to me like without asking. It's like, hey, here's a router. It splits into two. You can do whatever you want. 2.45. Like, cool. Thank you. Three names. I put a guest profile. I'm having fun with it. I have three router connections. Now I only have one, and it manually chooses what I want. I was like, this is straight up garbage.
I'm sorry, man.
It's like the small complaints. This is the smallest complaint, but it's big to me because I'm in LA and we're still recording the show.
That is
And
true.
once we start doing video, the camera's going to be HD and I'm going to have my setup. I don't want
Oh
any type of bad
man.
connection. I need the HD connection.
Right.
So I always use the 5 gigahertz, knowing that I can rely on 2.4 for like the smaller products. Like if I use my iPad and my phone, it's on the 2.4. So nothing is taking up the bandwidth of the
Mm.
5. So,
You know
you know,
what, Bastion? That is a real issue that you are bringing up because I've seen even just smaller issues when it comes to Spectrum, when it comes to a lot of creators using just Instagram Live and they just start lagging out of nowhere. A lot of New York creators that do have Spectrum, I would just jokingly just say, "Oh, you must have Spectrum," and they always answer, "Yeah, yeah, I do have Spectrum." I'm like, "You see, it's that
yeah.
Spectrum. You gotta switch over to FiOS." I don't know if they
So
allow it in their neighborhood, but hey, gotta switch over to FiOS if they allow it. Cause I know.
there's a
Oh yeah, I'm
there's a
sorry.
John Oliver episode discussing how internet providers work and how you have to pretty much bring it to like maybe the local court in order for the city to make their own internet. So I always recommend people to watch that episode to get, just like, hey man, maybe we could just work and like just push out these small companies because no way South Korea is the number one internet. They have the number one internet in the world. It's
Oh
like
yeah, I
we
believe
could
that.
we could be there too.
I
Like,
believe
why
that.
can't that be us? Because corporations use the same wiring, so they don't want to change it up because that costs like $2 billion to fix up, and they're not
Yeah,
interested in doing that. So
they
it's
use
like
they use the
lazy.
same chips. They use the same everything, dude.
They use that's
You
see
know
that's
what?
just
You know how
nasty.
crazy. It baffled me that a lot of companies will just use like Samsung products. Like a lot of tech spots, they'll use Samsung.
Well, it doesn't baffle me.
It
I think it makes sense. Well, it's not baffling because some companies make things better than others, right? So, you could enjoy. I'm an Apple enjoyer. I love Apple products to an extent. My main phone is an Android on purpose because I don't want to be too into the ecosystem. And here's a good example. A lot of tech people, especially on YouTube, are dissing the new Apple display because it costs $1,500, where you can get the same design and maybe similar features
cheaper.
for one third the price. So for like $600, you get the same type of
Hmm.
design. And most people will go towards Apple because one thing that these videos and the commenters were explaining is that it's as a display is built very, very well and nicely. Like it's
Yes.
just aesthetically beautiful.
We
So,
always say that, Bastion. People buy Apple for the aesthetics.
so in that case, most likely, in terms of the example, you will go towards that direction because they do it better.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for like a beautiful setup that just fits your Apple aesthetic, of course you pay $1,000 over the asking price. You know, compared to if you get like an LG screen, and I think they make the best monitors for half the price. You have a way better time. You could buy with the price of 1,500. You could buy two beautiful 27-inch monitors, aka which I already did. So I don't know. Sometimes other companies make things better. You know, Samsung just has better glass.
They do.
On the phone, you know, that they have better chips.
Yeah.
So, you know, you gotta go Samsung, South Korea to get those chips. Same thing in Taiwan, you gotta get those chips there. So we did an episode about it last year.
We did. It's called Semiconductor. Please take a listen to it on blackseinfeld.com or all podcasting platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, Audible, Podomatic, Pandora, wherever RSS feeds are located, and wherever our podcast is located, you can honestly just look up Black Seinfeld and our website will pop up. Our podcasting platforms will all pop up right there. Also, please go to YouTube, our YouTube, which is Black Seinfeld. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms, Black Seinfeld NY. I know that's the case for our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And if you'd like to submit us any music, please go to our email address, blackseinfeldny@gmail.com. You don't even have to send us music. You can write us an email, tell us what you love about the show, what you hate about the show, give us your opinions. We do read them. Sometimes we do reply back. And for craps and gigs, I probably would answer them on air or read them on air and give you an answer.
Yep.
Yeah, so do you want to take a break really quick before we get back into discussions, or should I talk about my first ever Karen experience?
Before you get into your first ever Karen experience, let's listen to the first song of the week.
Okay, man.
Gio, what you got for us?
First song of the week. Well, you know what? I know it's still Women's History Month, but given today's episode is going to be the majority of this episode is going to be about our reaction to the Kanye West documentary. This whole episode is Kanye, and it's whatever Kanye songs I wanted to play. And one of the first song I wanted to play comes from my favorite Kanye West album, and that is, of course, The College Dropout. And this is Two Words, which is from the mighty Mos Def, aka Yasin Bey, and Freeway. We'll be right back with more Black Seinfeld. And welcome back. That was Two Worlds from Kanye West, Mos Def, aka Yasin Bey, and Freeway from the 2004 College Dropout. Still such a classic song and one of my favorite lyrics to this day. Basically, I know now we get racially profiled, cuffed up and hosed down, pimped up and hoed down. Kanye coming through with the political tip, and I respect that. That's one of my favorite lines from that song because, shoot, I always go back to what I saw in 2020 when a lot of people were protesting over the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota, and just seeing what I saw in just vividly, it felt like the 1960s, although I've never been there, but I saw people lose their eyesight. Like, I remember that from those rubber bullets that were being shot at while people were protesting, while people were angry, as they rightfully should be. And, you know, that
tear gas can.
Tear gases and everything. That still plays a vivid memory. I remember it like it was yesterday. And yeah, that's why that lyric always sticks with me. But also being racially profiled. I got Karen the other day, people. I got Karen last week, and I didn't realize I got Karen until I explained this story to coworkers and to my clients, and they brought it to my attention. They're like, "Oh yeah, you got Karen," and I was like, "Oh, that's what it feels like, huh?"
When did this happen?
This happened last week.
Okay.
Legitimately last week. So my manager was away. She took a very long deserved vacation. You know, I took my little 2-day vacation first, but she took hers after. And so she was off, and normally I work in commercial real estate. I'll just put it like that. And normally we open at around 8:30, and so a lot of our clients come in whenever they want to because they have offices with us, right? So they're their own boss. They come in any time of the day, and so there's a lot of clients who come in for my clients. So it wasn't even 9:30, and this woman, of course it's a woman, who comes in and phone's on speaker, incredibly disrespectful, off rip. And I say, oh, hey, good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today? And she asks me for a particular client. And I tell her, I'm like, sorry, ma'am, they're not in as of yet. And she goes, why? I'm like, well, ma'am, I don't know. We just opened up too, so that's a thing. People are just now starting to come in. I don't know when they're going to be in. I don't work for them personally. They just pay me to have their office here. So they come in whenever they want. And she goes, well, I have this reservation I have this interview with them. I'm supposed to meet with them today at this time. I'm like, I understand that, man, but there's nothing I can help you with. Like, they aren't here yet. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to call them and this and that. You can't do anything. I'm like, no. She goes, well, why? I'm like, again, ma'am, I don't work for them. You know, they pay me to stay here. I'm not their employee, which I think is one of the it's the biggest misconception that a lot of people have. A lot of these people who come in for my clients have. They honestly think I work for them. And I'm like, no, I don't work for them at all. Because honestly, Bashtin, my job is supposed to be, you're supposed to not need me for anything. That's literally it. You're not supposed to need me for jack all. I'm just supposed to be here monitoring everything, and I'm supposed to be doing my own work, right? Which is making sales on offices and, you know, other remedial office work. So she goes, well, can I stay here? And I'm like, sorry, ma'am, this isn't really a lounge area. It's a private office. But there's a lounge downstairs on the first floor. You can wait over there. I know there's breakfast spots down there. You can just wait there, and, you know, whenever they come up, you can call them and you can come up, no problem. And she goes, well, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm like, ma'am, again, you can't stay here. And meanwhile, her phone is still on speaker. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call security. So got on my phone, called security. I'm like, hey, we have someone here who doesn't want to adhere to our policies. Can you come and escort this lady out, please? So this gentleman comes in, and I love him because he's the hard ass, right? He's the one who takes no ish, and I love him for that, right? So he goes and he's talking to this woman, and he's taking her out, right? And she looks at me and she gets so mad. She goes, I've never been treated this way in my life. How dare you do this to me? Bash, I kid you not. She pulls out a badge, right? She goes, I'm with the federal government and I'm going to report you. How dare you do this to me? I've never been so disrespected in my life. What is your name? And so I said, Tupac Shakur. And she goes, very good. I'm gonna report you right now. And so the security guard is walking out with her, right? And I'm thinking that's the end of it. Now, thankfully, there's another woman who I was tending to before this woman interrupted, who booked a conference room with me, right? And so she's a bit younger, and so she was like, you know, I'm just happy that I got to see that, just in case if she pulled anything. And so I'm thinking it's the end of it, right, Bashtin? No, of course not. Of course it's not the end. Part 2 happens, right? And across the hall, right, is actually the property manager. It's the building manager. And she's knocking on their door. And so the actual property manager comes out. And so she's complaining to her about me, right? And so the building manager comes in with the lady. And now the building manager, she's laughing her ass off, right? She thinks this is hilarious. And she goes, yo, what happened? I'm like, nothing. I just told her she can't wait here. Like, that's all I said. I said, you can go to the lounge. That was it. She goes, yeah, I figured, because she made you out to be one of the most evilest people ever. I'm like, really? What'd she say? Well, she said you just kicked her out, and you were being rude and disrespectful to her, and you were this menace and this monster. And I'm like, and she goes, but I knew you're not that type of guy anyway, so yeah, don't worry about it. And so the woman left again, and the woman came back to me. She was like, are you serious that I can't stay here? So I understood, like, she got hurt by me doing that. I'm like, well ma'am, I already told you what it was before, but you decided to not adhere to what I'm telling you, and you wanted to just sit here, and I just told you can't do that, because the policy is, if I don't know when these people are coming in, you just can't sit here, because what if they don't come in at all? You're just sitting here, right? And you got to pay to sit here, unfortunately. So that's why I did what I did. And so I started telling some of the people who came in, and they were like, oh, dude, you got Karen'd. I'm like, yeah. And I go, and they go, was she a middle-aged white woman? I was like, yeah. I'm like, no, you got Karen'd. You got Karen.
This is, yeah. After you told me the story, and this is the first time I heard it, people. Yeah, this is definitely a Karen situation in terms of someone who felt like they're beyond the law
And entitled.
And entitled to what their opinion was and what they wanted to do. And in your situation, you handled it correctly because you have your own bylaws to follow. Say, hey, this is not a lounge. This is particularly just for the private business that is working with me, and you're not part of it. I could see. So interesting that they went that way. I kind of feel for her a little bit because I've interviewed for places in LIC.
Yeah.
And you walk into the room and it's just rooms full of rooms. So none of these offices are real. But I wouldn't come with that energy though. But at the same time, like it does feel like I really hate LIC.
Oh, I do too.
Back in 2013, because I interviewed for a lot of jobs around that time.
Oh, you did?
And 2015. No, 2017, because that was my last year of college.
Right.
So I was trying to get some stuff, especially like those solar positions.
Right.
They have a lot in the LIC. So it's like that's the only thing like I kind of relate to, because I walk in the room and like, oh, is this place here? It's like, yeah, walk down here, and each room you pass is another office and office. So that sucks that you went through that situation. That is a Karen moment. I think it could have not been a Karen moment if she just walked out.
That's it. And I tried to explain that to her. I was like, this whole situation could have been avoided if you just would have said, okay, yeah, I understand, and just waited downstairs. Like, that's all. It's like, you could have done that, but you chose not to. So, I had to do my job. I'm sorry. This is my job. You just can't wait here, which I understand too, because the mind of it all is the when you walk into the area, right? It looks very much like a lounge, right?
Yeah.
But the problem, because the whole concept is, this isn't supposed to be this corporate environment. This is supposed to be this open, artsy area, and instead of like, regular walls, a lot of the offices have glass walls instead of just regular walls, because
open concept,
exactly. So when these people come in, right, and they see all the couches and the seats and all that stuff, they a lot of people always want to come in and sit, and so I'm like, sorry, you can't really sit here, this is a private office. And I get it though, I get it.
Yeah,
it just sucks that it has to be that.
Yeah. It's like you said, there's something downstairs so you could chill in for the time being. Hopefully get your situation solved. But you're right. That's what makes things a Karen moment is not minding your business or overstepping.
Oh, and she definitely did not mind her business, because there's this one gentleman who came in and sat down, right? And she goes, well, why can he sit here? Why can't he leave? And I go, oh, because I know exactly who he's here for, and that person is here. So so she's coming out right now, and so right on cue, my client came in and picked up that gentleman. I was like, see, she's right here. That's why he can sit here. I know exactly I know exactly who this person is and where this client is. So if that person that this person was looking for wasn't here, he couldn't wait here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes I completely understand. Almost like you made an appointment, you got the approval, you can sit down and wait.
Right. Because
your people ain't here. I don't know the story. You can't stay here until things are resolved.
Right. So there's so many instances where there's a lot of people, because I have clients that are representatives, sort of say, right? And so I have a lot of people who come in looking for these representatives because, you know, my clients have these clients coming in all the time dealing with cases or whatever have you. And sometimes, you know, my clients won't even be here. Sometimes they come in at 12 o'clock, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, these clients come in and they ask me about these people, and I always say, hey, sorry, they're not in as of yet. I don't know when they come in. They normally come in like around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And it'll be as early as 9:30, and these people come in. And so like they give me the story of what happened and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, like I hear you, but as I told you before, we're not in charge of any of that. So you have to wait for these people to come in, but they're not here yet. So you have to come back later. So it's a lot of trying to explain to those clients that what this actually is, because in their head, when they come in, they think that the clients that we represent, they think the whole business is just that, when, you know, there's multiple businesses that occupy multiple these spaces. So it's a lot of that too. It can be a headache.
Interesting. But this isn't the first time you argued with someone this week, right?
No, this is not the first time I've actually argued with someone this week. This is, bruh, and believe it or not, Bashtin, I didn't think like I would get to that point. And I think I need to give a little backstory on what exactly happened, because if you have been listening for the past, 2 weeks, this ties into the damn Jussie Smollett case, right? And so
this is a separate situation, folks, that you're listening.
This is a separate situation that's happening right now too. So for those of you who don't know already, which you should know, back in 2019, I said that the whole Jussie Smollett thing was fake. It was not real. People called me a madman. People didn't want to believe me. People dismissed me. And then when it came out that it was fake, you know, people tried.
It was quiet.
It was hella quiet, Bashtin. So CNN correspondent, Mr. Mark Lamont Hill, also professor at Temple University, he made his opinions known about the Jussie Smollett situation on Twitter earlier on this week. And, you know, he was saying that he was shocked. He was surprised that there's a lot of black people that actually want to see Jussie Smollett in jail, in prison, for the actions that he's done. And he tweeted out something where he said, justice and punishment aren't synonyms, neither are punishment and confinement, right? So I'm taking this as, okay, Mark Lamont Hill is on the side of Jussie here with tweeting out all of this stuff. It seems very pro Jussie here, right? And so, you know, I decided to respond to Mr. Hill, you know, respectfully. So, you know, I said, so you're telling me you believe that one cold Chicago night, 30 below freezing, on his way to Subway, Jussie Smollett was recognized by MAGA-wearing bigots, by MAGA hat-wearing bigots, called him the F word that rhymes with maggot, nigger from Empire. So I said, oh, so you believe in Bigfoot too? And so So he responded, and he said, "When did I say any of what you just wrote?" Right, which is a question. And what I responded it with question marks too. So I asked him a question. So back in hindsight, I should have said, you know, I'm asking you, is that what you believe? But I didn't say that. I said, by your defense of Jussie, Mr. Hill, because that is verbatim what happened according to his account. His being Jussie's account, right? And he goes, show me where I defended him. So I showed him a tweet where he responded to someone where this person said, he committed a crime. And he goes, even if that's true, everyone commits crimes, which I feel like, what? Most don't get caged. We pick and choose all the time. And so I responded with that, and I said, if that's true, no, it's not if, it's true. And I go, that's the equivalent of saying, I'm sorry if I offended you. And like, no, you offended. It's not an if. This happened. This happened, right? And he goes, no, my point is that my issue is with the sentencing, not the conviction. Pointing to someone's guilt to justify an excessive sentence is missing the point. So I go, 150 days is excessive? And I asked him, like, what would you do in this situation? And he never responded to me with that, because I think he would let him get away scot-free. And I've been having this discussion all week with people, right? And I know a lot of people that I have been having conversation with feel like Jussie should just get away with this clean. And I felt differently to that, and I will tell you why, Bashtin. And I've been telling people this for the past week, right? And I really feel passionately about this, right? Huey from Boondock said something interesting, right? During the second episode, first season, right? And he goes, yes, police do like to file charges on black men on just salacious charges, right? Jussie isn't one of those, right? He knowingly did something. He knowingly planned this to get sympathy, to get fame, to get notoriety from this, right? And what it did was, it gave conservatives something to talk about, because conservatives love to combat actual real things that not only black people, but just people of color deal with on a day-to-day basis, like hate crimes. It's an actual real thing. So the fact that Jussie planted that, it just takes away from everything, right? It doesn't take away from everything, but you know how conservatives are. They like to pick and choose, right? For example, Colin Kaepernick kneeled. Oh, he's disrespecting America. No, he wants to bring awareness to the police brutalities and the injustices of America. Oh no, he hates America. Oh, hey people, hate crime is an actual thing. Look at what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. Look what happened to George Floyd. Oh no, it's not a real thing. They're just criminals. Look what happened. Look what Jussie did. So that was my whole thing about it. What Jussie did, it can mess up a lot of stuff, and it can just have people pinpoint that particular incident just to back up what they feel already. So I explained that to people, and they understood it. They understood it a little bit. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I'm completely on your side. I really do hate how we privatize the prison, especially here in the United States, and it's not designed to help you out in the real world. Mm-hmm. It's designed to, if you're in prison for 5 years and you're out, you're kind of designed to get back in, especially with probation.
Right.
If and probation officers don't see eye to eye. They don't care. They treat it like a sales job. And I'm for leaner jail sentences. Like, if you commit the crime, you do the time, but I'm for leaner jail sentence. That's what I'm for, like drug possession and stuff, those things. Like, leaner time. This person doesn't deserve 20 years because he got caught with like 5 grams of weed. And a lot of people are still in jail till this day because of those situations.
Exactly.
That's what I'm against, right? But if you're out here committing fake hate crimes in order to get your clout up because you weren't happy with the contract Fox gave you for season 4 of a crappy show, that's different. That's complete selfishness. And
Exactly. And that's why
you
I
know,
try to get a lot of people to understand that's
I'm
completely different to whatever it is you're bringing up.
but the thing is, I do see a problem on how they got to that situation
Mm-hmm.
because they removed the case. The case was like pretty much like thrown out and the police pushed for it. That's what I'm mad about.
Okay.
That's what I'm mad about. I'm mad about how the case was thrown out the same way cases are thrown out for rich white people. And now because the police fell a fool, they are pushing in order to get this case to go. And this is what happened. They pushed for this case. That's what I'm upset about.
Mm.
I'm upset because they threw it out and police pushed it in. I'll be perfectly fine if they never threw it out and they just charged them and gave them 150 days in jail plus 2 years probation.
Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
think that's fine. Once you're rich, like probation should be a little bit different. I do have a problem with the idea of probation. I do think it's too long. Like anything over 6
Definitely.
months is crazy.
Yeah, look
That
how well
every
they did
single day.
Meek. Look how they did Meek.
Yeah, and it's designed for if you have conversations, especially if you're in gang and you have gang related conversation or talk to someone that's in the gang, they could just send you to jail because of that situation.
Right.
And that's just all nonsensical. But this situation is not that. And I do like the quote that you said that Hugh did from the Boondocks is like, yeah, it happens all the time. Police do go out their way to plant drugs or evidence on people that didn't do anything. They go to jail for a long time. But
Not this
this
one.
isn't it.
This
Not
ain't it.
not this ain't it. So I understand why people will want to defend this, but at the same time, I don't understand why you want to die on that hill. Like this is not the hill to fight. It's
Right.
same. I can only imagine how dudes in the '90s felt with the whole OJ trial. It's like it's so
Yeah.
weird. Like I'm born post that.
Yes,
I'm
we
in
are.
2000. I'm born jokes. I'm not born day to day. I'm listening to the radio on like what's going on. You gotta listen to your family's perspective to see like how they felt about the whole thing, because it was media TV, right?
Yeah, well, we definitely saw a lot of the. I remember seeing the OJ documentary first, the
Hmm.
ESPN documentary, the part 1 and part 2, basically like OJ, where he was great in the media and people loved him, and then after all of that, and then also seeing OJ, the People versus OJ, which is the Cuba Gooding Jr., the dude from Friends. I saw that whole
Joey.
yes, Joey. Yeah, that's the whole TV series, and seeing how race playing a huge factor into this, into that case, and they made it more of a black and white thing, and I think sometimes, especially again with the Jussie case, that's exactly what Jussie tried to do. He made this a black and white thing.
Yeah, see,
He
that's the thing. The other one was synonymous. It just became that,
right.
and I think I forgot who said this. I think maybe it was my college professor when he said like if OJ went through like wearing a dashiki into court, getting Jesse Jackson to back him up and stuff, it's like it would have been super suspicious because he wasn't black in the sense of that,
Yeah, he never
right?
really did any of that
He
stuff
never did
prior
any of
when he
that
was in
prior.
good standings with white America.
Everybody else.
Hmm.
So, like, in terms of being Hollywood sports athlete celebrity, he never did that. And he still didn't do that
Right.
during the case. And I remember, like I said, I wasn't there, but he was there. He was in LA. He was working a law firm. I'm talking about my college professor, and that was his perspective on it. And it made me think, it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So a lot of, especially leftists in that era, probably looked at this case and said, that's interesting. He's not pulling the black card on anybody. It's
Hmm.
like he still don't see himself as different from everybody
He
because
just
he's
sees himself as
OJ.
exactly.
And then you're bringing up the Jay-Z song years later, and I'm like
Hmm.
putting the connection. I'm not black, I'm OJ. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? This makes so much sense.
Okay. Hmm.
But now you're looking at Jesse Smollett, Juicy Smollett,
Hmm.
and you're just looking at him, and he's like, The biggest quote he said when he was at a party after that was, "I'm the gay Tupac." Right? So he's trying to put blackness, as JPEG once said, "Why is your black look like business to me?" He's
Yes.
trying to profit off the idea of blackness in order to help his clout. And it's just disturbing. It's disgusting. And I just can't defend that. There's, the man we're going to talk about right after this, I defended for many years.
Yeah.
I can't defend this. This is hilarious to me.
Oh, you can't.
No, it's like I just can't.
Fair enough. But one quick thing before we take a break and then have the rest of the hour to talk about that. Jussie definitely made being black a business for himself too. But also when he realized a lot of Black America wasn't defending him, he switched to being to the gay, to being oh, I'm a part of this LGBTQ community, and this was a hate crime against me because I'm gay. And then he switched it on the black community and his brother, saying, the black community would be defending me more if I wasn't gay. Why does your gayness feel like a business to me now?
Yeah. So his original idea just didn't pan out as he expected, but he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. Yeah,
he'll be just fine. He'll be chilling. I'll be seeing him in a movie in 2 years from now.
I swear. Oh man, can't wait for the Jussie Smollett reality show. It's gonna happen. Mark my words.
Okay, you know what? Maybe it's gonna happen in 2 years, and he's gonna play himself, or it's gonna play by somebody else, and he's gonna produce it the same way they did the Tiger King recently.
Yes.
I didn't see it, but I saw the commercials for it, and I heard it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
it's on Peacock. I haven't seen it. I have a friend who allows me to use his stream, so I haven't seen it yet. I've been actually hearing really good things about it as well. So I don't know. Maybe after Top Boy, I'll watch it. And with that, let's get into another Kanye West song. This is going to take us into the full hour where we're going to discuss this 3-part docuseries following the career of one Kanye West. And I just wanted to play this as an excuse to play one of my favorite Kanye songs, and he's a feature on it, but he produced it, and this was off of the 2005 Common record B, which is one of his best records ever, and this is They Say featuring Mr. John Legend. We'll be right back with more Black Seinfeld. Kanye West, you done know, real thing. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, non-binaries. Welcome back. That was Common, They Say, featuring one and only Kanye Titta, John Legend, 2005 B, one of Common's best albums. Mainly produced by the one and only Ye. And it's been a while since we've had a movie review. I think the last time we reviewed something was Spider-Man, Far From Home. And now this is going to be a 3-part series, which we are reviewing, of the Genius documentary. It is the 3-part, hour and a half each movie, so it's roughly like 4 or 5 hours? 5 hours long.
Yeah.
Of the career of one Kanye West. Ye, Kanye Titta, Chi-Town's finest, whatever you want to call him. Rapper, producer, fashion designer, genius, whatever you want to call him. You know him. He's famous. He's infamous. And he's a megastar. Everyone knows who Ye is. And the reason why we're doing this is because it's no secret, okay? You read the email before, people. You heard what that woman said. We talk about Kanye West way too much here, okay? But I think what y'all don't realize is the impact that Kanye has had on our lives, okay? On one song, he said, for some people, Kanye is what Michael Jackson was to him. And I agree with that. He definitely is. Kanye has shaped music, whether you like it or not, okay? If you're a fan of Kid Cudi, if you're a fan of Drake, if you're a fan of Travis Scott, if you're a fan of Childish Gambino, and guess what? It all comes from Kanye. We always talk about the day where Kanye West killed gangster rap music. We always talk about that day. It's a very important day, people. We talk about all of his beats, his production, meaning Kanye West is just not only a staple in urban music, but just in culture, in music, and fashion, and everything. And so, yeah, Kanye's in my top 3. You know, he's a major influence on my life. Okay? Because, as he said, if you're a fan of Kanye West, you're not a fan of Kanye West, you're a fan of yourself. And I'm a fan of me. I'm a fan of you too, Bash.
Yeah, I feel the same energy.
Thank you. And so we feel like this is important for us to do because we've been through thick and thin with Kanye West. It's been a very tumultuous relationship. Okay?
It's a roller coaster ride.
It's a freaking roller coaster ride. There was a while where I wasn't rocking with Ye. Yes, it was with the Donald Trump stuff. I wasn't rocking with him. I still didn't listen to Ye, the album, back in 2018 because of it. Okay? But this man is still important to me in my life. And I will be honest with you. The day this man transitions, I will cry. I'm not going to lie. I will cry. So without further ado, Bashtin, do you have anything to say?
No, I just want to piggyback up what you said. It's true. I think the Michael Jackson thing quote is really true. I didn't grow up with Michael Jackson. I only hear stories of his greatness. I wasn't 15 years old during his greatest time. For me, you know, Kanye was great when I was 8 years old. You know, that's it. Like from the production, from what he did with Jay-Z, all the way till when he started doing Jesus Walks, and there's 3 music videos playing back to back on BET. I was like, well, what is this? This is interesting. So it's been a long journey. And, you know, the first question I want to ask you, Gio, is what's your first thoughts on the documentary? Is this what you expected it to be when they first announced it? What's your thoughts?
Well, my reaction to the documentary, my first impression was I wanted to make sure that this documentary showed the actual Kanye West, meaning not the stuff that we see in the media all the time about him, his controversies, but I wanted to see the trials and tribulations he has to face in order to get to the positions and where he is today, right? I wanted them to peel back the layers of Kanye West, the megastar, and I wanted to see the actual person, the real person, because, you know, when it comes to artists these days, Bashtin, I feel like the whole megastar thing isn't really a thing anymore, right? A lot of these artists, to me, they feel like regular people, right? Maybe it's just because of our age now as well, because I see a lot of artists that are popular now. A lot of them are our age, sometimes younger, and I don't really see them as big megastars. But Kanye West, he's one of the very few that I still hold regard. If I ever meet this man one day, I might be starstruck. There's only a few I feel that way with. Kanye's in there. Hove is definitely in there. The Rock is in there. So I wanted to see the struggles, the trials and tribulations. And I feel like I didn't want it to be biased to Ye too. And I think that we definitely didn't get that either. It was not biased by any means either, because I think it showed everything. What about you?
For me particularly, as someone who's been following Kanye's career for a very long time, that's kind of read every article at the time when he had Kanye University, read all his blogs. I'm kind of disappointed in the documentary.
Okay.
Because it felt like nothing new. If anything, I've gotten maybe 20% more interesting information that I didn't know, but it was only stuff that happened at home, like in Chicago. But
Right.
everything that happened in New York was pretty much out there already.
Mm.
Stories being told by everybody else. When you put those stories together, when you take everybody's interviews and put them together, you
Yeah.
see what happened. And I think D-Ray, for example, was one of those guys that was there at the time. So when he's talking about when he did the voice for both the Dropout and Late Registration, he also told stories of what they were doing around that time. You could see a little bit of how things were put together later on.
Right. Well, you're not only getting the perspective of Kanye, but you're getting the perspective of the person who's directing it, which is Coodie.
So that's the thing. I guess as we continue speaking on to the documentary,
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer a Kanye West documentary,
Yes, this
in
is
my opinion.
it. You're right.
It straight up is opinionated documentary filmed by someone who is the viewer, almost as is like if you're watching The Office, right,
Yes.
or Abbott Elementary. Just a
Yes.
shout out a new TV show.
Great show.
It's a documentary looking in, and they're showing you the footage that they're able to show you, and that's how you contextualize what's going on with the person.
Right.
Because if you're filming this person every single day for 3 years, you definitely have footage that you just don't feel like putting up. But I think those footage probably will reveal a little bit more than we got. But in order to kind of fit the story, fit the frame of what I would like to say, the last call, because I do call part one the last call, because it pretty much covers the whole story. Just this time, you actually have footage of everybody not caring about
Right.
Kanye. It's like that's how I feel about the documentary. It's not really a documentary the way that other musicians have their documentaries,
Correct.
because there's so much narration was done by the director
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I was like, I wish this was called something else. I wish this wasn't this documentary where they're hyping up for years, because they've been hyping this up for years
Mm-hmm.
and saying like, oh, this is going to be, this is was in the making for 25 years, 30 years in the making or whatever. I was like, I don't know. I personally didn't care for it.
Okay.
But I would like to dive in with it
Sure.
for you. So
Absolutely.
please,
Because
let's start.
yeah, because I didn't know about this documentary at all. Like I had no clue that this was a thing happening.
The thing is, there's a documentary for every single era,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a Yeezus documentary, right? And this one kind of evolves around, and it's probably finished, or at least there's so much footage that no one edited it yet. But they just kind of decided not to put it. Same thing for the Glow in the Dark tour. I never got a chance to see it because I didn't go to concerts around that time. I wish
We
I
were
did.
young, Bashtin.
I didn't know the concept of concerts,
Right.
really. I didn't know they're all in its own show until I seen footage online, like the blogs, like I said. And there's like a whole 808 like film, because apparently there's always someone filming. So it's like, oh, okay. Originally, I thought, and it was like a 7 hour, it's always gonna be 7 hours of footage. Like, oh, great. So it could be like the first 45 minutes is like people kind of speeding through the college dropout, and then each part they explain like how late registration was created, or at least like what made graduation so difficult in terms of him going to the spotlight and making and being there in the same level as a pop star, right? Then you keep pushing all the way to Yeezus, and what made it very difficult for him, like how the fans didn't like him. My reproductive fantasy, how he disappeared, and what he did when he disappeared. Chilling with Virgil Abloh in Paris with the fashion brands, working under them all the way to the bottom for that whole year. It's like that's interesting stuff to talk about with Kanye, because he's more than the music, as we could see in 2022. He's done a lot of other stuff besides music, but this documentary is just
it wasn't that, and unfortunately, the reason why. Well, we'll save that for part 3. But part 1, called Visions, basically the director, Coodie, discovered Kanye in his Channel Zero television show, and that was when they first met. Kanye was about 17 years old, and he did some production for Harlem World, Murder Mace's crew back in the day. And then, Kanye started to, pick up a bit of steam. get his name known around Chicago, and Coodie kept hearing his name. And then, that led to him producing for Rockefeller and Hove, and H to the Izzo being, the big record that sort of changed his life in a way. And, Kanye moved over to New York to pursue his dreams of getting a record deal as a rapper as well. And so Coodie linked up with him and asked him if he can document this series, basically, to see where his career would lead him, where this path would lead him. And so, Kanye and Coodie have been cool ever since that moment. And so going into that series, that part, I thought it was interesting seeing, I guess you could say, normal civilian Kanye, where he was able to just walk around New York City, because this was it back in 2002, people. And so it was still a trip seeing New York back in 2002. For me, especially because, Bashtin, we're born and raised here. So like hearing the music, looking at the old logos, like
if you show me a footage of the old Toys R Us in Times Square, with the wheel, that'll bring a lot of memories, because that was a treat to go there,
right,
as a kid. So I do understand what you mean, like just looking at old school New York.
Yeah, I'm just like
super different.
Yeah, I thought it was such a trip looking at it, and it definitely hits different when you were there. It's like looking into this time machine almost, and just looking at all that old technology. Like I remember there was this one scene where a Rockefeller AR was like, "Oh, you heard about this new thing called the BlackBerry? I hear it's the newest tech that you gotta have." And I'm like, "Holy shiz!" Like, damn, BlackBerries. And now they're no more.
Good for your emails.
Exactly. And now it's no more. Emails. No, not even that. BlackBerries are no more anymore. Like, they're gone.
On market.
It's just wild to see, time and how fast it goes.
And what you said about regular, like, civilian Kanye is pretty interesting, because I would like to say this is hip hop. I'm trying to be a rapper grindset Kanye.
Yes.
And it's definitely, I won't say it's harder to do it than like producer, because when you're producing, you have like at least 5 hot beats and a couple of rappers rap on it. There'll always be some type of work for you, especially in that time where you could just cost like $500,000 for a beat, which doesn't exist anymore. But back then, that was the thing.
Yes.
So
especially after H to the Izzo.
Yeah. So that type of grind set where he's just trying to push his album and he's still working on it on the side. That's what I like. That's something I like to see. Especially my favorite parts of that Vision was him explaining how sometimes when you're working with other rappers, they're late. So if, for example, and this is things from like other articles too, if a rapper or the record label pay 10 hours for studio time, the rapper don't come until maybe halfway through. You have 5 hours to work on your own stuff. And that's the time, because you get there early and you're already prepared for when the rapper comes in, and you're just using that opportunity, because it's open room.
Right.
The name is on the list. The main rapper is not there. So that's that early grind set, like never waste any type of time. I'm pushing forward. And it's something that I liked in Vision, was just seeing that.
I get into more of that in part 2, where he started using other people's studio time to do his own album for College Dropout. But one thing I always enjoyed, I thought was really eerie about Kanye, especially in part 1, was the amount of confidence that he had within himself, but also how he really talked a lot of stuff into fruition. For example, this was when he went back to Chicago for for the first time in a long time, and he's getting interviews with WGCI, and he's getting acknowledged with WGCI, the award show or whatever. And he's in the hotel with Coodie, and there's this paper, and there's like all these artists on there like Diddy, and and the name just says Kanye. And so he felt the type of way about it, because they asked him earlier about what his stage name is, and it should be Kanye West. And he made this joke like, see, I'm not Prince yet, one of these days, sooner or later, it's just gonna be called Ye. Chicago's very own Ye. And I'm like, that's freaking eerie. That's creepy. This was premeditated. He had this in the tuck since 2002.
He's a visionary.
He
so
is a visionary.
And I do think like some things he said within the documentary did come to fruition later in the future. He was just trying to plan different ways to get there. But yeah, you're right. It's about how he built his confidence, how he's very confident in terms of pushing forward. So he's always practicing, always has the next step ready to go, and he's always pushing to get into meetings with the right people, and also trying to get deals with other people.
Yes.
So like I said, Visions, aka The Last Call, if you ever listen to the last track on the College Dropout, it's pretty much the first, it was like a 12-minute track, right?
Yes, it is a 12-minute track.
So I like to say maybe the whole record. I think this was like the whole record.
Yes.
At the end he was signed with Rockefeller, right?
Yes, at the end he was signed with Rockefeller, and at the end of the documentary, he was signed to the Rockefeller team.
Yeah. So this is him pushing got Rockets Records trying to sign him, but that didn't fall through. Capital was something that was on the table, but didn't fall through. Because they didn't see him as a vision. Because at that time, it's pretty interesting because I always thought that Q-Tip was a producer rapper. Was he not?
That's what I thought as well.
Same thing with De La Soul, because I'm listening to Open My Eagle has a podcast called What Happened Was, and he did something with Prince Paul in season 1. And the way he explained, Prince Paul was a producer, but also was everybody in De La Soul. So those guys were producer rappers too. And I thought that was interesting, but maybe because they were signed as rappers first.
RZA.
Producers. They were signed like RZA's. The RZA's a little bit different because it was it was Wu-Tang Records first. But those guys rapped first. Everything was on RZA production. That's why
fair.
Bobby Digital came a little later.
That's fair.
So that's why I was kind of, maybe it was just like what it was in the early 2000s. You couldn't be a producer and a rapper at the same time.
Yeah, they didn't think it was marketable.
Which is interesting because they will market the same artist over and over. And that's pretty much what brings us to the end of Vision.
Yes.
When they send Kanye to work with a new Rockefeller artist who also has the image of Rockefeller, aka what we call gangster rap, especially in the early 2000s. And that's why he was out there
in LA. And then, he got into the car accident, and then that leads into part 2, which was Purpose, which, basically it documented my favorite Kanye West album, and actually seeing the making of the Kanye West album the documentary, seeing the actual documentary of the making of the College Dropout, it just further solidifies that yes, this is still my favorite album ever from Kanye immediately, because basically you saw the blood, sweat, and tears literally of trying to complete that album, it getting delayed so long, and then him just fighting to just make this video, and just fighting for Rockefeller to open up their budget so Kanye can get the money to make whatever he wants to make when it comes to these videos, and him just going to different people's studios to just steal some time to get a verse or to get a feature or to just play a beat. I thought, man, he's literally like, you saw what happened. He freaking lost a jaw, and then he started rapping.
Yeah.
About it. Like, what the hell?
So one thing I thought was interesting was how he looked. Well, first of all, I liked this part a little bit better because we had a lot of insight on like even meetings with the doctor.
Yes.
Talking about his face and how he needed certain surgery so he could look like he used to look, but it would take away from the time that he has to shine as an artist, because it would just push back and delay, and then he would lose that heat. So that's the whole risk reward type thing. Like, could you risk looking like your regular self, or can you deal with the face swelling that you have, and just keep pushing because you need to be that artist. And I did read someone's comment about it. It's like, well, I never realized that like you could have kind of body I think dysmorphia when
Mm-hmm.
you look at yourself in the mirror and it's not you. So that's something Kanye probably went through because that person that he sees in the mirror is not his face due to the car accident. And I
Mm.
never thought about that.
Wow.
I I never thought about that. It's like that's why he's upset sometimes in that part because that's not him when he looks in the mirror. That's like
Mm.
he's saying like I'm more handsome than this, but it's like when you look at that scene, like this is the Kanye I know. This is the
Right.
one that's taking all these pictures.
Exactly. This is the Kanye that I know and love, but this isn't the person that he's used to seeing, and he had this face for about what 20 something years before he got into his accident, right?
Exactly. So I thought that was very interesting, and I never thought about that because I thought it was just new teeth, but I
Right.
didn't know it was just like slightly how the jaw is connected and the swelling on the face. So I thought that was interesting. I know he had a lot of teeth, and that's why he had braces and the retainers, and that's
Right.
something I thought was foreshadowed too because
Mm.
they kept showing that because how he took care of his teeth, like he liked his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So there's it's weird foreshadowing.
Yeah. But again, I enjoyed, just seeing clips of Through the Wire, but like actually seeing the elongated clips of them, like when he played Through the Wire to Pharrell. I know like that's a classic. We've seen that before many a times, but I like the aftermath where Pharrell was like really giving him his flowers, like, "Yo, you're one of my favorite artists." And then he's like, "Yo, the fame is gonna come, but like, when you get that fame, just always remember to just like be yourself, remember who you are." Don't let the fame control you, blah, da, 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 da. And I felt like a lot of that stuff was very poetic because it definitely goes into the third part. Um, One thing we haven't talked about was his mom, obviously being the stable rock that she was and being his biggest supporter where when no one else did. I mean, we saw when he bum rushed Rockefeller and he started playing All Falls Down, which at that time was just called I Promise, and it just had the Lauryn Hill sample, which was from the Lauryn Hill Unplugged album. And just seeing the A&Rs and the executives just listening and not really caring, and I'm just like, damn, like they low key just sunning him like that. They just only see Ye as this producer, and but Ye just believing in himself. And I think that's one thing that I love about what this documentary can teach to others, but also that's one fault of this documentary that I have as well, because Kanye is an exception, okay? I feel like you can have this confidence if you are that talented like Ye, or if you just have that talent, because some people will look at this documentary and have that Kanye arrogance and they can completely suck.
Yeah, and I do think I do believe what you said. This doesn't work for everybody
Mm-hmm.
because it worked out for him,
It
but
does.
it only worked out for him because
Yes.
most likely you will have to be a pop star to get to that level. And I think using Beyonce as an example, someone that's built like that. Her dad raised her through this performance. Like you have to sing, dance, you have to write music, you have to understand everything. To the point where she could do what she could do today, and that's kind of the the pop star way, aka old school Hollywood. If you wanted to be a trained actor in the 50s, you had to do all three.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little bit different. You could do one and guide your way up there with doing other things at the same time. So yeah, it is very interesting to see what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about like we see a lot of footage of Donda, his mom, and
Yes.
what she meant to him and vice versa. And he constantly repeats what the word Kanye means, being the only one.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it means. So that's another thing too. I didn't know what Kanye meant for a long time.
Me neither.
it's strange to how that doesn't get brought up in the more recent. Now it does. I think when he did the only one for North, but that wasn't brought up during like the whole 2007 era where he was doing a lot of articles. That's what I was reading around that time. So maybe if I was listening to the older stuff,
Mm-hmm.
he probably would have said it, but
Right.
I never definitely didn't pick up on that.
Um, Also, like I feel like an adequate fan of Ye. I also got to see a lot of things that he mentioned before in his music, and actually getting to see it. Like, for example, in Diamonds of Sierra Leone, the bonus track where he goes, some of my plaques they still say K. When people like didn't really know his name. This one dude called him Cayenne. His plaque didn't have his proper name on it.
Yeah, Kane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Kane. And actually just seeing, the core group that was around Kanye from the very beginning, like guys like Coodie and JIV, and Rhyme Fest, of course. I know I'm leaving out people, but just seeing that core group initially, and going into part 3, I know about, like, I thought of songs like Real Friends and from the Life of Pablo era. Yeah, I thought about a lot of that stuff too, about especially even that interview with Charlemagne in 2013, the first one where they were going to fisticuffs, and Charlemagne's like, it seems like you don't have a lot of real people in your corner anymore. Yay, what's happening? What's wrong? It feels like you just have a lot of yes men around you, right? Just stuff like that started like hitting the nerves, hitting the brains, like a lot of suppressed Ye memories that I have throughout the decade plus, that's just coming up and like just giving me a spark whenever I'm watching these scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I do find them very interesting. So let's talk about the end of part 2, where it's pretty much the relationship between Coodie and Ye kind of changes and wander off, where Ye is just too busy.
And he's getting
Coodie.
really big.
And he's getting really big. And this is something that kind of irked me a little bit.
Okay.
Only just seeing like a person like Ivan, right? Mm-hmm. Ivan Jasper is Kanye's cousin, I think.
Yes.
And his barber,
mm-hmm.
right? So you see Ivan forever. Now I've seen Ivan for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Don C. I've seen Don C for a very long time, and
right.
He was big in Chicago too with Kanye doing his own thing.
Rhyme Fest,
like doing his own thing too. So these are other boys, GLC.
Mm-hmm.
These are other people within Kanye's crew. Around the same time, Coodie is there too. Right. I'm kind of surprised they didn't show a lot of
Chike,
John Legend.
Okay.
And I'm surprised how they really, really kept quiet with Kanye's girlfriend / fiance at that time.
Right.
So they just pretty much took her out.
That's the deleted scenes.
They showed her maybe 1 or 2 times
when he gave her
how
kiss.
She looked.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I saw.
Yeah, they're super quiet on that, and I
get it.
Comment on that.
I get. Yeah.
But
open up a can of worms.
There was a lot of other things that were happening around that time that they didn't really get into. But my what I brought that up for, like talking about Ivan and Don C, it's like they did other things with Ye that worked with him and worked for themselves too. And I thought maybe Coodie could have done the same, but I'm talking from the outside. Like maybe that wasn't his like what he wanted to do. Like he wanted to create music videos. Like I said, I'm commenting as someone that's watched the whole thing as commenters, like, hey, maybe if you worked with Kanye on video production for other artists, maybe your career would still been together. I'm just, like I said, I'm just talking from the outside. I don't know what their real relationship was like besides him just being uninvited after being invited. And that's kind of what part 3 is about. But just to kind of finish off part 2,
yes,
it gets very third party perspective.
Well, basically it ends with him winning 3 Grammys for The College Dropout. That's how it ends. And it even started with it even ended with I feel like once Kanye won the Grammys for his debut album, I felt like, this is the perfect end to the story. But as fate had it, I'm gonna do it in the Coodie voice. But as fate had it, it seemed like this was only the beginning. And then into part 3, where we got superstar, megastar, Ye, and all of his controversies. Because part 3 was the awakening, and it really started where Coodie was like, yeah, after college dropout, I'm not with Ye day to day because Ye's busy. So, earlier on with like late registration, he was still there, but then I think what changed for him, he felt, was the Grammy party, the after party for his late registration project, and Kanye kept calling him Chike.
No, that was
part 3.
Graduation.
No, that was late registration.
This is late registration.
Yes.
After party.
Yes.
That was kind of weird.
Because I understand. I get it from Coodie's perspective. This is a dude that you've been around with for a while, right?
Yeah.
Like, y'all were close, like could have been brothers at one point, right? And now you're seeing him becoming so successful, and and you've been through it all with him up until that point, right? And then, Ye was a bit drunk off the hen dog. It was clearly evident. Okay, I'm gonna shoot him some bail, but calling him someone else's name repeatedly, I would understand why he would feel some type of way. Can you understand that?
Yeah, no, I definitely get it. It seemed very disrespectful due to the context of everything we saw before.
Yes.
This is what I mean. Like, this documentary is being created from one person's perspective.
Right.
And that's how I feel.
It
seems super disrespectful because of everything we saw for the past 5 hours. You know what I mean?
It broke my heart, honestly. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe Kanye's a joker, but I don't, like I said, I'm looking from the outside.
Right.
And he thought it was funny, but he also thought it was super disrespectful, and he felt off. He felt the whole thing was just like, me and him don't rock no more. And that's how he took it. And that's kind of pretty much where, like, it was like, what, 6 years they didn't really talk.
Yeah. So I was kind of, I felt pretty, I felt let down about not knowing about, the graduation, and then 808 heartbreak and all that stuff where Kanye becomes a megastar.
See, that's what I mean. Like, that's the important stuff if you're wanting to give a documentary.
Right, but it's not about just Ye, though. It's about his perspective of Ye. So getting all the stock footage, Bashtin, I think that was very poetic about the, the distance between them. And
I personally don't care for that.
I know, Bashtin.
Because I like Coodie. At the end, I like Coodie. I respect him for what he did. But I watched it because the name Kanye West was on there.
That's fair.
Jeen-Yuhs.
I did.
He's showing me old footage from 2004, 2003, 2001. That's awesome to me.
1998.
I seen most of it. Ironically, I seen most of these footage because, like I said, it's been around for a long time. Just nothing was created from it. And now you're selling to me with a Netflix documentary, and you cut it up for, edited over the past year. And now let's talk about part 3 and how messy that was, because there was no story. I didn't watch part 3 until yesterday, right?
Okay. And your thoughts on part 3?
And my thoughts on part 3 was, this is a mess. This is like, if TMZ did it, they would have done it better, because it's the same footage. There's no new footage, right? Besides when he's on the island and you got Kanye freestyle rapping, and he's talking about his MAGA stuff. It's like, yo, there's so part 3 is pretty much
stock footage.
Fast forward for the first like 40 minutes, a fast forward of like our life, and then the rest is stalking.
Yeah, Kanye crash course.
Kanye crash course of what happened these past recent. Like, let's talk about everything bad he did. Right?
Yeah, the controversies.
Let's talk about every controversy he did.
There you go.
And let's get into let's quickly jump into Red Cap Ye, which is the worst part of it, which I do agree should be in the documentary.
It should be.
But like, you skipped over it like a good 10 years of like classics right there to talk about Red Hat Yay, because you feel he's just a monster because of the death of his mother. And I totally get it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I understand what this documentary is meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't want nor care for this documentary. So we do see Red Cap Yay. We do see how he acts. We do see his perspective. And to be honest, it's like we kind of noticed. We
Yeah,
we, we kind of
yeah,
knew that he acts like this on purpose.
yeah, yeah. Because
You know,
Coodie even said, he's like, um, Kanye said when the cameras are on, he has to act this character, blah 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 blah. And remember when they like reconnected briefly? They were like, I know Kanye, but I never met Yeezy before.
I believe that. I
Yeah.
felt that. Um, in 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 those kind of small parts where they talk about him and clothing and like what he's trying to do, I felt like kind of he asked Kanye a question. Kanye was trying to answer it off the top of his dome.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to deliver, and he kept everything in the film. That's why the last scenes are just him in the car
Right.
or him in the studio working on Kids See Ghosts.
Yeah, because it felt like to me, Bastion, what the way he was trying to frame it was, I'm trying to like get back that connection that we had earlier on in life, because he always kept trying to say, I really want to sit down and just have that one-on-one with Ye, but I haven't been able to do that because he's been busy, and I feel like I'm just the outside looking in, and da 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 da, and so I'm like, okay, so like I guess me as the viewer is like, okay, so are you gonna actually have this convo? And so when he when he actually had this in the car in China, I felt like it was underwhelming. I was like, all right, nah, this ain't it. Like he tried to get through to Ye, but the words that he was using, it just wasn't good to me. He didn't even go like, hey, Ye, so how are you? How have you been, bro? We haven't talked in a minute, man. What's been going on with you? How are you?
Yeah, it felt like he was telling us that he didn't know him. It's like, all right, you're in front of him and you're beating around the bush
Right.
because you had the camera on. And if he didn't like something, you turn off the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like if you're giving a honest review, you have to review Cootie as well on what he did, especially in the later half of the documentary. The first one was great because it's
Yes.
just straight up raw footage, and there was a story to tell because
Mm-hmm.
Kanye already created the story. It's just up to him to edit
Right.
it,
And he
in
was
my
there
opinion.
almost every day too,
He
so
was
that
there almost
helped.
every day. He just had to edit it, follow the
Right.
story, and it worked. Part two, put everything you need to put together, and then that's what you have for part two. If anything, if you had nothing else for part two, it could have been like a commentary when you're talking to uh we're going to get a Magic Johnson documentary around the corner, right?
Yes.
We're going to get, like, we've seen Michael Jordan documentary of
Yes.
his career from beginning to hit the last dance. Why couldn't we get that with Kanye? I know it's probably too late, but I'm pretty sure you could get those people in the room. John Legend is super important to the Kanye history. Talk to him. He has a lot of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's, as I said, I'm a huge Kanye fan from the past. Like Kanye's not political at all. He just happens to rap about those certain things because he
Mm-hmm.
knows of it. He's not political. And John Legend will say the same thing. That I never saw him as my political peer.
Mm.
Boom. That's how you could end the whole like last part where he just disagrees with everything Ye says. But just coming to a conclusion, wrapping this up, I do like part one a lot. Part two is okay. I just like part three because there is no story
Mm-hmm.
because of how well part one was done.
Part one
So
and two.
if part one was episode 4 and 5, everything else is episode like part three is episode 8 and 9.
Mm.
That's the last way I look at it. It's like I said, part one was great. Part three had no story,
So
had no purpose.
do you think we should have diverted away from Coodie after part two and then picked it up where people that were documenting Kanye with late registration, Kanye with graduation, Kanye with dealing with the death of his mother, Kanye with 808 and heartbreaks, suit Kanye, Kanye with the hair in the back and the goatee Kanye, which is my favorite iteration of Kanye, by the way.
So I do agree with what you said.
Hmm.
I do think Coodie not all right. Maybe my opinion is Coodie didn't have to do the documentary, and it would have been better if he just like maybe sold the footage or got a lot of money or helped with the editing process, and that's it. You know,
Aw,
not being like I don't want to be super disrespectful. Like I said, he made himself look real nice.
not disrespectful, kind of
He made
harsh,
he
kind of
made
harsh.
himself he made himself look real
Of
nice.
course,
I'm
it's
trying
his
to say there's a
documentary.
type of selfishness to it at the same time.
So you agree with Ye? He should have had final approval of the editing and all that.
No, he did have final proof. You saw all three. He was there at the conference and he did the speech.
Right, right, right. But no,
Um,
like he wanted to actual like have say so on how the movie was made, and they wouldn't allow him to do that. I was reading the articles. They would
no,
not allow
no,
that.
I wouldn't allow that either.
Hmm.
Um, I probably be interested in listening to what his perspective would be, especially if he gave me extra footage.
Right.
Because like you said, he always had the cameras rolling. So if we like I said, I'm disappointed. There's a lot more Ye did, but if this is just a crash course on how he started and how it is now, because this is still a present tense, I don't care for it.
That's
Uh,
fair.
TMZ could do a better job for part three. I can tell you that. If I wanted to see a crash course on the red cap, yay, I could just ask TMZ to do it, and they'll do a perfect job for it.
Yeah, they documented it pretty well. Yeah, TMZ was there for a lot of it.
They were there for a lot of it, and their paparazzi were there for it too.
Shoot, they could have
So
interviewed Van Layton.
that's what I mean. It's like if they really wanted, red cap, yay, I would just call TMZ and say, "Yo, give me every footage, help me with the storyboarding, and we can make it all those like 3-4 years all into like 1 year, maybe like an hour and 30 minutes done."
Mm,
So that's my opinion on it.
that's
I
fair.
don't like it as a Ye fan.
So out of 10, would you giving it a 4?
No, I give it a 6.
Oh, okay.
I personally discourage like don't care for it as a Ye fan,
Hmm.
but I do think if it does have a lot of positive to it in terms of work really hard, grind as much as you can, and for the next generation that didn't grow up on Kanye but already see him as a greatness, they could watch that and understand a little bit more, then get into his music.
Fair.
So
As a
maybe I
story,
gave it a 5, but
okay.
that's what about you?
Okay, as a story, the first two parts, man, I think they're like it's an easy 9 out of 10. Immediately must watch. You gotta see it immediately. But I do agree with you on the third part. Although it was hard to watch because of the rift between Coodie and Kanye, I agree that, and I was disappointed at the fact that I didn't get my favorite iterations of Kanye, especially 808 and Heartbreak Kanye, because again, that was innovative Ye, and that was a time where people were like, yo, what the is Ye doing? Singing, blah, 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 auto tune. He's wearing suits. His hair is weird. He's wearing these glasses. And that was my favorite Ye. And I wanted him to touch on that. But we didn't get that because Coodie wasn't there. So that as a Kanye fan, I was a bit disappointed in that as well. As a film, as a documentary, as a third part, I feel like yes, that was, although it was the most gut wrenching due to the relationship. As a Kanye fan, it was the most disappointing. So I got to give that part. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6 out of 10, above average. So as a whole, I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. The whole trilogy. And the only reason,
7 out of 10.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the reason why it gets 3 knocks down is because of part 3.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So I think that's all we have for today. It's already 1:55. This episode flew, and we really didn't talk much, Bashtin. That was easy.
Yeah, but we got. But I think we got through what we wanted to say. We kind of waited a month
Yes.
since it came out, and as like I said, we're from the generation of watching Kanye West grow to just a producer to greatness. So to see this documentary, we can't ignore it. It's very important for us to watch it,
Exactly.
and we're just hoping that they could get I don't know, something better. I saw the Bee Gees documentary and I thought it was way better than this.
Oh, the HBO one?
Yeah, and most of the Bee Gees passed away by then. It's just the oldest brother is still alive.
Mm,
I thought they did a better job just explaining things. Like, yeah, we just need some explanations. That's it. We don't even have to get detailed. But Kanye has done a lot of things, and I'm
right.
no, maybe next documentary we discuss would be the Magic Johnson because Magic Johnson did a lot of things since he left the NBA as well.
Absolutely.
So
Like movie theaters and buying Starbuckses and all that stuff.
I think it's very important for people to check that out, especially because the HBO TV show is wild. And I saw the first 2 episodes, so
We could talk about that next week.
No, I definitely don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
maybe, but
'Cause
yeah,
I honestly don't know what's going on in the show.
it's wild. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
But yeah, this is Black Seinfeld show about absolutely nothing.
Nothing
Gio,
at all.
what are you gonna play us out to?
I guess I'll just play it right now. We'll see you again next week. Peace.